Did you know that your pet can have seizures from certain types of flea and tick preventatives? Or that many pets have actually developed liver failure and have even died from these products? Don't let your pet be a statistic. In this short video, I'm going to cover what you need to know about fleas, the flea life cycle, and most importantly, how to use natural remedies to help repel insects naturally and keep your pets safe and avoid toxic conventional preventatives. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, a holistic veterinarian and founder of The Natural Pet Doctor. I'm on a mission to help pets thrive naturally by empowering pet parents like you. If you're excited to learn more about how you can help your pets achieve optimal health, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. New videos post every Monday on our channel, so make sure you hit the button and the bell to receive notifications so you never miss out on our new content that's released every week. You can also check out more of our free content at thenaturalpetdoctor.com. I hope you enjoy this brief snippet from our hour-and-a-half-long webinar that we recently did on fleas, ticks, and heartworms that's available in our VIP Natural Pet Parent Club. Make sure you click that link below to learn more and join our club. So why is this topic so important? I probably don't even need to go here because that's why you're here. You've probably heard about recalls, side effects, seizures. Maybe you've had your own pet develop muscle tremors. Here's a list of all the adverse events that have been reported to the FDA from some of these heartworm preventatives, your flea and tick preventatives. So things like HeartGuard, Interceptor, Sentinel, Revolution, ProHeart 6, those injectable heartworm medications, and then the newer ones, NexGard, Bravecto, Simparica, Credelio. And in 2018, the FDA actually released a statement that care should be used for pets with a known history of seizures and potential for neurological adverse events. So that means muscle tremors, ataxia, and seizures in dogs and cats when treated with flea and tick drugs like Bravecto, Credelio, NexGard, or Simparica. So these drugs are known as neurotoxins, which is how they work against the organism that we're trying to prevent or repel. And these are all part of a class of drugs called isosazolines. Now, the thing is that I know personally from working with numerous patients that your pet doesn't have to have had seizures, and these drugs can lead to them without any pre-existing condition. This is why this topic is so important. And for you guys, I'm so excited for you to be here because I know you know it matters. Let's start with fleas, the lovely flea. So what are some of the signs that your pet may actually have fleas? So unusual scratching, you might notice them shaking their head. They might start biting at themselves. That nibbling, where they nibble along their legs, they nibble at their butt area, where you're like, that's not normal, just like licking or normal grooming. You might notice they're a bit more restless. They're getting up, or they act like something's biting them in the back end. They get up, move around. You might notice tapeworms. So these look like rice-like segments in the stool or around the rectal area, and you might get bit too. So if you have a high flea burden in your house, this is where you can see little bite marks on your ankles or around your legs, and they're tiny little red spots, and they might be super itchy too. So if you see any of those signs, that can be a sign that you have fleas in your environment, in your house, on your pet. They're not staying on you, so don't worry, we're not their natural hosts, but they can still bite us. These are some of the common locations for fleas. So typically around the neck, around the collar area, you might see a little fast moving dark flea kind of darting in and out of the hair. And you're like, did I just see something? They can be really tricky to find because they're so small. Around the tail, if your pet is chewing excessively around that base of the tail on the top part of the spine, they're losing hair around that area. First thought as a veterinarian, when I see this in my patients, I'm like, there's gotta be fleas somewhere. 99% of the time it is a flea. It could be multiple fleas, it could be just one flea. You also wanna look in the groin and belly region, and then also in the back of the rear legs. But remember, they can be anywhere. And also we're gonna talk about flea dirt. So you'll see that picture there, what flea dirt means and how to identify if it's flea dirt or true dirt. So fleas. Fleas have preferred places where they like to live. So they typically like warm and humid conditions, and flea eggs and larvae, they optimally need about 50% humidity to actually survive. So they also prefer temperatures between 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but they can live in slightly cooler and also warmer temperatures. So eggs and larvae will actually freeze at 37 degrees Fahrenheit. There's 4 stages in the life cycle of the flea: the egg, larva, pupa, and adult. And depending on the environmental temperature and the humidity levels, the total life cycle can take anywhere from a couple weeks to many months. This is why fleas can be so difficult to eliminate. And maybe you've had a flea infestation in your house and you're like, I just can't get rid of these darn fleas. They won't go away. This is why. So first stage, the egg life stage. So the beginning of the life cycle pretty much occurs when an adult female flea lays eggs following a blood meal from the host. So like your pet. So blood is actually necessary for that adult flea to reproduce. The eggs are small white objects. They're typically smaller than a grain of sand, so they can be really hard to see. And they're laid in your pet's fur in bunches of about 20. And a single adult flea can lay about 20 or 40 eggs per day. So this is how they can replicate so quickly. Then what happens is those eggs will fall off your pet as your pet moves, and this allows them to be dispersed throughout your entire environment where your pet spends their time. And so the eggs represent about a half, so 50% of the entire flea population present in an average home. And those eggs, they take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks to develop, and they hatch when those environmental conditions are just right for them. So if the temperatures are too cold or too dry, those eggs will take longer. If the temperatures are warm and the humidity levels are high, the eggs will actually hatch at a faster rate. The next stage then is the larva then emerges for that next life stage. So the emerging larvae are blind and they actually avoid being in the light. They develop over several weeks eating pre-digested blood known as flea dirt that the adult fleas pass, along with other organic debris in the environment. And so here's a great picture of flea dirt. So if you see this on your pet, yes, it could be real dirt, but a great way is to do the flea dirt test. So flea dirt equals flea feces, flea poop. So you want to grab a wet paper towel and brush off some of these dark specks onto that wet paper towel. And then you're going to just like smear it. And when it's smeared, if it turns into like a reddish brown color or marking, you've got flea poop. And so the larvae, they're actually going to make up about 35% of the flea population in the average household. Once again, if conditions are favorable, the larvae will spin cocoons in about 5 to 20 days of hatching from their eggs. And then this leads to the next stage called the cocoon or the pupa stage. So the pupa stage of the flea life cycle accounts for about 10% of the flea population in a home. And this cocoon stage is the last developmental stage before the adult flea emerges. And this cocoon is pretty amazing because it can protect the pupa for several days or even weeks before an adult flea emerges. And if the environmental conditions aren't right for emergence, the cocoon can protect the developing flea for months and even years. So this is why when you leave like an apartment and you move into a home that's been vacant for years or months, and all of a sudden you have a flea infestation, and you may not even have pets. This is why, because these cocoons, the adult flea isn't going to emerge until the presence of a potential host is made obvious. So vibrations, you walking into the room creates a vibration that can tell that adult flea it is time for a meal. Rising levels of carbon dioxide and body heat are other key triggers. So this could be triggered by your pet walking by, people moving in the house, and this tells a flea to emerge from its cocoon to feed. And then we have the adult flea life stage. So once a flea is emerged, it has to begin feeding from a host within a few hours. So shortly after a first meal, adult fleas, they're going to breed, they begin laying eggs within a few days. So this is why these populations explode in your home when you have flea infestations, or you get one flea, all of a sudden you have thousands of fleas. So remember, those female fleas, they're not able to lay eggs until they obtain a blood meal. And those adult fleas account for less than 5% of the entire flea population in a home. So they're not the majority of the population. So they spend the majority of their time living on the host while they feed, they breed, they lay eggs, they're having a grand old time, and they can live anywhere from a couple of weeks to several months on the host animal. So how do you get rid of these little buggers? How do you get rid of these fleas? The adults are only 5% of the population. That is the flea that is on your pet. It is a very small percentage of the population. You have to look at treating the environment, and that's the majority of the hard work. So you're overcoming those different life stages to get rid of the flea population. One of the things that you can use safely and effectively is food grade diatomaceous earth. So one of the things I really like about this is that you can sprinkle it around the carpet if you have carpet, which can harbor a lot of flea eggs, cocoons, pupa, all those things, all those life stages. Carpet can harbor a lot of those life cycles. And so we can use the diatomaceous earth to sprinkle around the carpet. You can use it to sprinkle it in your pet. And the way that this works is it works as a desiccant. So it's actually drying up the exoskeleton of the flea. So it's like sharp like spicules is what it feels like walking on glass. It's really irritating, and it dries out the flea. And it can take a couple days for this to really work. So it is a more long-term treatment option, but it's a great way to treat the environment. Now, if you're like a lot of my clients and a lot of pet parents that have a yard where the pet is going out and there's like a flea nest, or you have raccoons, you have other animals coming through your yard and dropping off fleas into the environment, it can be really frustrating because you're getting a consistent source of new fleas every single day. One of the ways you can help treat the yard is you can use beneficial nematodes. So you can actually get these from like online. You can get them from some stores, some like natural pet stores, boutique pet stores will have these also. And you spray them. You make this mixture of these beneficial nematodes, and you can spray it in the yard. So if you have an outdoor kennel, I would recommend using the nematodes in this area if you have a problem with fleas. So that way they're actually like ingesting the flea life cycle and helping to break that life cycle that can be so hard to get rid of. The other thing inside the house, you need to be meticulous about vacuuming daily. Get rid of the vacuum contents, making sure you're removing the vacuum bag, you're sealing it if you have a bag. If you have a vacuum like mine where there is no bag, you need to be emptying out those contents every single time you vacuum, because guess what? Fleas will come back. They will like find their way out and find their way back into your environment to make your life complete living hell. So as you know, if you've ever had a flea infestation, they are not fun. So vacuuming daily, you need to be washing bedding daily in hot water. So this is your pet's bedding. If they're laying on a blanket on your bed, they are dropping off those eggs. They are dropping off those, you have your pupae, those cocoons, then you have those adult fleas. we have to be breaking the cycle. So if you do have a flea infestation, doing this routinely for a week to 2 weeks will help tremendously. You need to bathe pets, and if possible, in soapy water. So getting the soap up around their head first. So create a lather. And what's going to happen? Fleas hate water. So they're going to rush to an area where they feel safe or they can hide. They're going to go straight for the head, straight for the ears. And if you have this barrier of foamy soap, so using things like Castile soap is a great safe option. You can even use dishwasher soap. I like using safer options that have less chemicals in them, but those would be 2 options that you can use. But have that ring around their neck so that the fleas stop, and then you're bathing them, you're rinsing them off, then you're drying them off, and I'll give you a flea repellent spray recipe on the next slide. So get ready for that. If you have a phone, grab it so you can take a picture. And then after they're dry, using flea repellent sprays on them, but also frequent flea combing, because now you've gotten rid of a lot of those adult fleas, and it's going to be easier to manage if there's one flea. You can find it with a flea comb, you can pick it off, you can get rid of it, and the life cycle becomes easier to break with less of a flea population. This is a flea repellent spray by the amazing Dr. Karen Becker that I absolutely love. And it integrates in apple cider vinegar, neem oil, catnip oil, and then essential oils. And what's great about this is that rather than using some of the harsh preventative chemical agents, so things like Advantage, Revolution, those topicals that so many pets hate, or a lot of pets will have adverse side effects from, we can make this flea repellent spray, and we can utilize things that are natural, which is fantastic, right? And the best part is catnip oil, geranium essential oil, and eucalyptus essential oil have both been shown to be as effective as DEET without the side effects. So in reducing insect numbers, that's pretty powerful. Now, finding catnip oil can be a little bit harder, but a lot of times you can find that at like a health food store, or you can find it online. Your neem oil isn't technically an essential oil. It's more of like an expeller pressed oil, kind of like olive oil. And then with your apple cider vinegar, you want to be making sure that you're using the organic unfiltered option with the mother. That is the beneficial properties of apple cider vinegar. And what that apple cider vinegar is doing is it is creating an acidic environment on the skin that the fleas hate. And guess what? This works for ticks too. So, and also it works for mosquitoes. So a lot of the things that I am giving you, the tools that I'm giving you, work for fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. So they work against insects. And you can make this with a spray. A lot of pets will hate the sound of a spray. So spray some in your hands, rub it together, and then rub it over their fur, around their face, focusing on the areas, especially if we're trying to repel fleas, on those areas over the butt, the back end, underneath in the groin region, where a flea will be. And so you can do this a couple times a day. You can just spray them before they go outside, before you go on a walk, before you go on a hike. And this is going to help reduce, not prevent, but reduce the numbers of the potential fleas that your pet's going to be exposed to. Let's say your house is a mess and you have an infestation of fleas and you're like, I got to do something quick. We can actually make an essential oil flea balm recipe. So this is where it is concentrated because we are trying to take out those nasty little fleas. So what you want to do is get quality essential oils. I use Young Living for the brand that I like using, that's safe for my pets, for my cats, for my dogs, that I know is pure, that is unadulterated and therapeutic and doesn't have any adulterants in it, no synthetics. That is key. That is how we use essential oils safely in pets. We've done numerous webinars on how to use essential oils safely in our VIP Natural Pet Parent Club. And we can use essential oil safely in dogs and in cats. And this is how we can use it. So using 70 drops of black pepper essential oil, 70 drops of peppermint essential oil, and 70 drops of oregano essential oil, you're putting that into a water diffuser in the room that you want to blast first. Close the door and diffuse that on high for 2 to 4 hours. You are leaving the house with your pets when you're diffusing this. And then you can rotate it around each room. So this can be a pain if you have a cat, but this is much safer than using those conventional flea bombs that are like gassing your entire house. So this is another option that you have to use to help with fleas. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on any of our future content that gets released every Monday. As always, I love hearing from pet parents like you. So if you have any other pet health topics that you'd like to hear about, make sure to leave a comment down below. As always, you have the power to help your pet live a long and vibrant life. Together, we can make the change that's needed to help your fur family thrive naturally. Until next time, I'm Dr. Katie. Take care, pet parents.